Ladies and gentlemen, today we are recording the 6th episode of the Plant Code podcast. I'm Eric.
I'm Max, and today we're joined by Jacob. And today we're recording at the Youth Hub in Dubai.
The Youth Hub, they promote the future of the youths and their creative minds for the future of Dubai and the UAE.
In this episode, Jacob's going to be sharing his experience of how he became vegan and the challenges he faced. So don't forget to tune in.
Tune in on Sunday.
See ya.
You're listening to the Plant Code podcast, brought to you by Max and Eric.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 6th episode of the Plant Code podcast. I'm Max.
I'm Eric.
And we're super excited to be here.
Super excited to be here.
And today we're going to be recording this at the Youth X Hub in Dubai, which is a great initiative by the government to support young creative people. So we do apologize if there's a bit of background noise here. We will give a link below for those of you in Dubai and want to use these great facilities. And even more importantly, we are joined by our first ever guest on the Plant Code podcast. He is...
Hey, Jacob from Sweden.
And he's vegan. You should say, I'm vegan, and my name is Jacob, and I'm from Sweden. No, that's how it should be.
Yeah, everyone has to say they're vegan first. So I must say, I'm very happy to mention that I'm joined by two Swedes in the pod.
Ooh, bravo.
I'd say mic drop, but I don't want to drop it. It's the only one we have.
That's the only one we have, and it was quite expensive. Anyway, but today's episode is going to be a little bit different. We're basically going to be talking about the insights of how we became vegan, and basically what were the difficulties that we faced, what also made us become vegan, why we decided, and we will basically share our 3 stories to you.
So I think it's important to mention, first of all, that there's no perfect way to become vegan. There's people are coming from all different standpoints before going vegan. Some people were vegetarian, pescatarian, flexitarian, dinosaur-tarian, mammaltarian.
You name it.
And culturally, people have different backgrounds, different expectations, different challenges. Some people do it from one day to the next. Some people do it over the course of a few months. I mean, I think the importance is knowledge, basically, and you've got to aim for the stars to land on the moon. An important thing that I always say is going vegan is a bit like learning a new language or learning an instrument. You know, you can't do it in a day, you can't do it in a month. You can try, and it's going to take you time to get there. You don't just do 1 month and give up, if you know what I'm saying.
No, and it's usually the case when people are when they explain that they are vegan. It's usually very maybe bland sentences for some people. Some people will just be like, oh, okay, it's just a regular lifestyle, but it is something far more complex than that. And I don't think people necessarily understand what it is. Well, they understand what it is to be vegan, but they don't know the effort it takes to actually become vegan and the sacrifices that you have to make. But those sacrifices, they do pay off in the long run for not just yourself, but for millions of other heartbeats out there.
So, Jacob, what's your story?
Well, it's been about 1.5 years now. Maybe I should start with thanking you for having me. I'm very excited for being here, and I think you guys do.
We are actually far more excited to have you here than you probably are here.
Well, from what I've heard from these 4 or 5 first episodes, I've done a really good job. It's good facts, and tried to contribute with some of my story. So so it was 1.5 years ago that I started, and before that I was full on carnivore, and I didn't really know what was going on in my life because I never been that heavy as I was at that point, and I was constantly going to the gym, and I performed really badly, and I was constantly asking myself but I'm eating the right stuff and I'm doing everything right, but why do I feel this bad? Because as soon as I had a meal, I had to sit down on the sofa to rest a bit, just to recover, which was horrible. And for me, who comes from a background which is pretty much elite athlete, I just felt so weird. So there was one day when I worked with a guy, which I'm gonna make a shout out to, Eduardo. Hope you listen to this thing. I'm still vegan. So I was the proper I hated vegans. Basically.
Get out.
A lot of people still do, let's be honest. A lot of people still hate us and have these misconceptions about us, and I never thought I'd be vegan as well, to be honest. But yeah, I mean, tell us more. What did Eduardo tell you?
So we worked together that day, and he brought his own food from back home, and I was starting to look at what he ate, and it's dude, what is that you're eating? And it's Oh, it's an overnight
Salad.
oats. And I'm like, oh, okay, so why do you eat that? And it's like, I'm vegan. I was like, oh, really? And then I threw all these kind of questions that you get as a vegan.
Do you know you need to eat meat to survive? Do you know that we need meat and all that kind of thing, you know?
Exactly,
Yeah.
those kind of questions. And the funny thing was that he answered every single question that I had with a knowledgeable answer. So I started to doubt my own knowledge. And and then it just took up from there. We got along very well during our day there together. And in the end of the day, he said like, so Jacob, in case you want to learn more, you can watch these documentaries, which we're going to talk a little bit more about later.
Mm-hmm.
And the day after, I watched 3 documentaries. During these documentaries, we were like constantly pausing the documentary, and I was like, wow, in case I've been eating the way I've been doing my whole life, and the ones in the documentary are right, then I've been an idiot.
You probably have been an idiot.
Yeah.
We won't call you an idiot because I think it's just a lack of
We all are.
education. We're idiots, first of all, but it's a lack of education. I mean, I remember me when I was a vegan, like, what about like 2.5, 3 years ago now, on a day when I was trying to eat like healthy, I'd literally eat a can of tuna and 2 boiled eggs, which is basically like the worst thing I could possibly eat for my organs, and it's not even healthy at all. It's full of salt, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was like, as soon as I ate before I turned vegan, it was just like, oh, I need chicken just to get the right amount of vitamins, minerals, and proteins. And I was just like, and I felt like shit. So yeah, we watched these 3 documentaries, and then me and my girlfriend said to ourselves like, let's try for 2 weeks and see what happens.
Did you watch the documentary the same day when you were with your friend Eduardo, or did
It was
like,
the day after.
the day after?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
And which documentaries did you watch?
We watched What the Health, Cowspiracy, and Forks Over Knives.
Cowspiracy is that one is grim.
Yeah, I mean, they're all very, very good. And I found an interesting fact actually on vomadlife.com, which is a really interesting website. And the 4 documentaries that had the highest impact on non-vegans are What the Health, Cowspiracy, and Earthlings, and then Forks Over Knives. Did you watch Earthlings?
I didn't watch Earthlings, no, but my girlfriend did though.
And soon Plant Code.
And soon the Plant Code, yeah, for sure.
Will be in the list hopefully soon. Not as grim, hopefully, but.
No.
So yeah, so you said then you and your girlfriend tried it out for you were gonna try it out for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Was that full on vegan or was it?
it was, I would say, all our main meals were full on vegan. And then in case there was some skim milk powder or whatever in the things we ate there in between, we didn't really pay attention to those. But it was insane because I was at 93 kgs when I started, and after these 2 weeks I were at 85. And just the day before I turned vegan, I was at the treadmill and doing my routine, and I ran 10 kilometers an hour for 30 minutes, and I was exhausted. And then just 4 days afterwards, after I turned vegan, I ran 10 kilometers an hour for 1 hour and 10 minutes, and I wasn't tired, which was an insane change.
I mean, 4 days, that seems incredible. I mean, that sounds amazing. But do you think there's any kind of placebo effect into that as well? Because 4 days, I don't think your body's going to change that much as I do believe and advocate the vegan diet.
Well, yeah, definitely was definitely placebo, but I lost a lot of water weight, so I became much lighter very fast, and yeah.
So you said you continued training, you continued working out, and maybe like Max said, maybe it was a little bit of also a mental effect with saying like, oh, I'm vegan, so maybe now it's where I'm gonna feel good, and yeah, there might be a lot of other factors involved in that. Anyway, so you said you continued on for 2 weeks. You were living your life more or less than normal in the sense of routines that you were going to the gym, doing your regular.
Yeah, I continued just as normal, as I usually do, but I ate vegan, and now it's been 1.5 years, and I do not want to go back at all.
Well, that's the way. That's a successful transformation, I guess. In other words.
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting. You did it within 2 weeks. Like, you literally went full on vegan straight away and then maintained that. For example, for me, I did it over a long period of time. Over about maybe 6 months. For example, the first month I cut out red meats, and then the second month I cut out white meats, and then the third month I cut out fish, and then I cut out the eggs, which I honestly thought would be really tough, but it was actually super easy. And last of all, I cut out the cheese, because cheese is everywhere, and like, you can do whatever you can to try and avoid like milk products, dairy products. Sometimes, I don't know, they put them in really weird stuff. Like I even saw beef gelatin in orange juice the other day. You know, it's
What?
Yeah, there was a big thing on Instagram like about Marks and Spencer selling fruit juice with like beef gelatin.
Beef juice. Yeah, no. Like for me, I don't think I would have been able to go from this carnivorous lifestyle to a vegan diet. That for me just didn't seem as an alternative, and that's why I did, step by step. I did more pescatarian and then vegetarian, and then eventually I went to vegan. But inspirational, I have to say, indeed.
And that's why I do encourage people, even those who are like, oh, I'm cutting down on meat, because you just want to get that ball rolling in the right direction. You know, like not everyone can go straight away from one extreme to the other. If you get that ball rolling, it'll pick up. You know, like the way that Eric and I did it was we cut down on one thing, and now it's full on. Now you're cutting out leather, you're cutting out the whole vegan lifestyle beyond the plant-based diet.
You almost said podcast there.
Just
it's
so
in the
to
DNA. Yeah, no, it's true. It's going. It's that knock-on effect, and I think as well. You know, for me, it started off when I was vegan. I thought that, wow, you know, I feel good. I feel healthy. I know I'm contributing well to the environment and so on. But there was also so much more that I had to learn about this thing about, like you said, cutting out leather, what there is in cleaning utensils. And so on, and the list is endless, and people think that vegan is just basically what you put inside yourself, what you eat, but it's far more than that. So it's broad.
It is, and you can't be a perfect vegan. I mean, over the course of this podcast, no, everyone can cut down on single-use plastic, on all different kinds of stuff. We can all do so much more, which is, I believe, we should support everyone who's at least trying to go in the right direction. You know, people always want to find something wrong with you when you're saving. But you drink from a plastic bottle. But you do this. But you're trying. You know, you're making an impact. You're cutting down on paper or whatever. Whatever you're doing, it's great for the environment. It's great for your health, and it's great for the animals.
Definitely.
So, Jacob, a lot of people say that going vegan is expensive, and that you spend a lot of money and they can't afford to be vegan. What do you think about that?
Well, I'd say that is quite a big lie, actually. I eat a lot of like beans, rice. Quinoa is expensive though, and like you can get cheaper ones, but if you want organic, it's gonna.
It will punch a hole in your pocket.
It will, yeah, but it's a great grain, whatever it is.
Well, protein source.
Protein source, that's what it is.
And we discussed this in our episode 4, Protein Power. If you haven't listened to it, do check it out. Quinoa, excellent source of complete protein.
But yeah, back to you.
Yeah, well, the thing is that you can get a lot of inspiration from dishes that just aren't vegan, and you can just take away the meat from those dishes. Because I think a lot of people, they just have this thought in their head that the meat is like the sun, everything circulates around the meat, but we just have to take away the sun and eat the planets instead.
It's true. I mean, people believe, once again, like you said, that the meat is everything and everything evolves around it, and you can't have a meal without meat, and that's the older generation. I was discussing with my parents earlier about this, and for them, the meat part in the meal is basically what defines a full-on main course for them.
Exactly.
And but the other day, like, you know, this thing where we have korv stroganoff in Sweden, I actually made the tofu stroganoff.
Oh wow, that's
great.
great.
Instead of having the sausage, I just replaced it with tofu, and obviously there's cream, but you use vegan or soy cooking cream, and it was exactly and even better, like, to be honest. So like you said, you have to be creative, and it's all about being creative, and there's some great websites out there for you to follow if you feel like you want to get creative behind the stove. You got boshtv, which we'll put also link below, and they've got some very easily followed recipes, videos, and they're super easy to follow. The ingredients that they use are accessible in most supermarkets around the globe, and there's multiples as well that we will link as well to the descriptions below.
Yeah, I mean, for me, a lot of people say they don't know what to cook because there's not a lot of options when it comes to vegan food. But people who are non-vegan, they're basically just eating the same 4 dead animals all the time. Yeah. You know, it's like beef, chicken, lamb, and I don't know, whatever, fish, whatever the rest of it is. Whereas if you go vegan, there's thousands of vegetables out there, and you can really combine them so well. And there was an interesting can't remember where I read it, but basically that if you want to go vegan, don't just cut something from your plate, try crowding your plate. So you put more food and more different types, so you don't feel like you're just removing something, you're actually adding to your plate at the same time. I think one of the main reasons people claim that a vegan diet is expensive is when you look at the price of organic vegetables, it is a lot higher than non-organic. And there's always the debate about is organic good or is it bad because it uses more water, there's less productivity when it comes to organic. But at the same time, when they use pesticides, they're killing a lot of the wildlife, they're killing off the bees, which is also our last episode that we mentioned. Always good to put a bit of product placement in there.
The references is do check it out. There was our previous episode as well. You can get some great insights about the bees and what they contribute to our ecosystem, and we have to take them seriously.
Yeah, and when it comes to pesticides, it is something that really needs to be taken into account because according to the Environmental Working Group, 70% of conventionally grown up fruits and vegetables contain up to 230 different pesticides or their breakdown products. So we've come up with a list. Well, we didn't come up with a list. There is a list, and we've decided to share it with you, of the dirty dozen, as it's called. And these are the ones that have the highest tendency to still contain traces of pesticides. And the dirty dozen is strawberries, spinach, nectarines, apples, grapes, peaches, cherries, pears, tomatoes, celery, potatoes, and sweet bell peppers.
The dirty dozen is actually a human factor analysis. They call it that.
Really?
Yeah. It's like what contributes to accidents at workplaces. They call it a dirty dozen. It's like it's fatigue, it's demotivation, blah blah blah. But anyway, that's why I recognize the word. So I was like, dirty dozen does ring a bell, but not in the vegan context.
Maybe we can do an episode about that.
No, we won't have to do that. So what is the best possible way to remove those pesticides from the vegetables or the fruits that you do buy? But according to the Center of Science and the Environment, washing them with 2% of salt water will remove most of the contact pesticide residues that normally appear on the surface of the vegetable and fruits. And almost 75 to 80% of pesticides residues are removed by just regular cold water washing. So how to remove the pesticides in the best possible manner would probably be wash the vegetables, and you can do 4 parts with water and then 1 part with vinegar.
I actually tried this, and you can't taste the vinegar as long as you don't put 4 parts vinegar, 1 part water, which is what I did. And that
I was about to say, imagine you like have an apple and it's well, if it's apple cider vinegar.
Yeah. Do you buy organic, Jacob?
I do actually. I checked these dirty dozen now, and of these, I buy strawberries, sweet bell peppers, and tomatoes. But the tomatoes and the sweet bell peppers are mostly organic. I am not sure about the strawberries though. It might not be, but yeah, I'm trying as much as I can, and I have this online supermarket, which might as well just make a shout out to as well, kibsons.com, which is an amazing place to buy your groceries, and they deliver to your door. It's like Christmas every every time they arrive, and like come with this big cardboard boxes. When you open it up, it's just overwhelmed with veggies and greens and stuff. It's amazing, and I'm trying as much as I can.
Yeah, I didn't know about that, but that's amazing.
Yeah, and I'm surprised by that list because I kind of considered that any fruit or vegetable that had a skin was naturally protected from the pesticides. But in that dirty dozen, you have like potatoes, nectarines that you actually peel, and they still are considered part of the dirty dozen. And to be honest, I actually never wash vegetables. I always forget, so probably should start doing it really.
Yeah.
And there's also the Clean 15, which is a pretty cool name. Sounds like a kind of a girls' band. And Eric, you want to go for the Clean 15?
Yeah, so can I get a beat? Avocado, sweet corn, pineapple, cabbage, onions, frozen... No, okay, that's enough. Frozen sweet peas, papayas, asparagus, mangoes, eggplants, honeydews, kiwis, and cantaloupes. We were actually unsure what that was last time, but it's actually small orange melon and cauliflower and broccoli.
Yeah, because in Europe we just call it a melon, basically. We don't call it a cantaloupe. That's an American word, apparently. So
yeah,
we're learning every day.
We are.
So if you think that you can wash off up to 75 to 80% of all these pesticides, you can't wash that off meat because it's in the flesh. So I was doing a bit of research, as I like to get into the dirty side of these things. And in the US, there are 75 million cases of food poisoning every year. 5,000 of them are fatal, and 70% of that 75 million is caused by contaminated animal flesh, not by broccoli.
So yeah, you can just wipe that out by not eating meat. All right. So today we brought in Jacob to explain a little bit about how he became vegan and what was his challenges that he faced. But one question that everyone asks a vegan, Jacob, where do you get your protein from?
I don't get any protein, man.
Oh really?
No.
Oh yeah, we knew it.
Yeah.
Vegans
Probably
don't
gonna
get-
die soon.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. Shame. So we should stop here then.
I have a question for you. So, what was the hardest thing for you about becoming vegan? Either in the beginning or even up to now, today? Like, what's the challenge that you face?
Good question. Well, the biggest challenges is probably all these, like, as I said before, skimmed milk powder. When you go for a snack or something and you check the ingredients or whatever is inside it and it says something with milk in the end, and it's like, oh, that's so frustrating. And I haven't really done a lot of research when it comes to snacks because I don't eat a lot of snacks in general. So it's mainly like dark chocolates.
Do you prefer to have something more sweet or like more savory? Do you eat, let's say, would you prefer to eat a pack of chips compared to sweets, for instance?
I think I'm more of a savory person.
Yeah, for the savor, usually it's a bit easier than what it is for candy, because candy does contain, a lot of candy does contain gelatin, and there's actually a lot of people that don't know about this. So it is a fair, even for us Swedes, we have a fair selection of candy available, so that's why sometimes it can be quite difficult, and has made me having to look a lot more, and I still do it obviously now, but I was shocked with some of the candies that I was usually eating contain gelatin. But for savory it's usually a bit easier because it might contain a bit of milk powder here and there, but that is usually about it, unless you buy bacon flavored chips. I mean, then it's quite obvious that it ain't vegan.
I think that's also one of the reasons why a lot of people lose weight initially when they do go vegan. It's because it's so hard to find vegan sweets, vegan desserts, vegan, basically all the junk shit that you usually do eat on a day-to-day basis. So if you kind of cut that out, you're going to naturally lose weight when you're not eating all the chocolate, all the sweet stuff. That's probably it's a great reason to go vegan. But nowadays you do have more and more of these food types that are becoming vegan as well. So you can get fat again on it if you really want to, but you can do it in a perfect, healthy, not healthy at all, but in a cruelty-free way.
Yeah, just don't base your diet on eating vegan chips and candy and say like, oh yeah, it's fully doable. Look at here, I'm 80 kilos and heart attack.
I think honestly for me the biggest difficulty that I encountered becoming vegan beyond the food aspect was the social aspect of it. I think we are put into a box as vegans. We're considered, like you said earlier, and when you were talking about you met this first vegan guy, you thought they were all like skinny and weak and they didn't get enough protein intake, which we covered in a previous episode. I think I've mentioned all our episodes.
Where do we get a protein?
Yeah. I don't know, we need to keep looking for our protein intake. Anyway, as I was saying, people think that we are weak, that we're a bunch of hippies, that, there are vegans. There's Lewis Hamilton is vegan. Ooh. He's a Formula 1 driver. So one of the world's strongest men is vegan, Patrick Baboumian. He has a really cool beard as well, if you're into that. And Kyrie Irving. A lot of people are following, I don't know, we can say vegan, but at least following a plant-based diet as well. And I think it's important to have these people in our community to show that, you can be a normal human being and be vegan as well. People always see it as very extreme.
Yeah, look at us. I mean, if we can do it, anyone can do it. And a lot of people say that, if I can do it, you can do it. And that is the case because, like I said, it is just doable. It is fully doable for anyone to practice a vegan diet. It's just a commitment and the understanding of it.
And I said the word extreme, whereas I really don't see what's extreme about eating plants. Like, extreme is murdering and torturing animals to eat their flesh. That I consider that extreme. I don't consider eating flesh. So, Jacob, how do you deal with it socially when you tell people that you're vegan?
I don't tell them.
Oh, so you're not one of those as hi, I'm vegan, I'm Swedish, and my name is Jacob.
No, like usually I tell them that I'm vegan, and most of the time I get these questions back, and I do answer them as good as I can with all the knowledge that I possess, but it's not always going according to plan.
What do you mean that people?
Because they usually
people
come
try
up-
to step on
yeah,
you. In other
it's-
words,
most of the time it's like 10 against 1, and I was like, okay, if you think like that, go ahead, and I'm just gonna do my thing. Most of the time, it's tough with the job that I have to convince the people around me. I'd say.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, even on a day-to-day basis, because a lot of people, they are very strong with their mindset of what they have, and at the end of the day, you know, it's what we do. We just want to share the information, and then it's up to people whether they want to cultivate the idea of starting to practice a vegan diet or maybe take any of that into consideration. But for us, it's like I said, it's just to share the information, and if people neglect it, in all fairness, let them do it.
For sure, and it's like I wish I was more educated myself, because some of the time, like the people that I speak to, they do have a lot of arguments, and a lot of them seem to be knowledgeable, but I just know in my heart that it's wrong. But I don't have anything knowledgeable to say or to counter that argument with.
You know, it's ethically correct, you know, but it's difficult to pursue that into words.
Exactly.
I feel like sometimes I can be in the same boat.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have the answer to everyone's questions. However, there are some really good resources that you can use if you want the answers. I was looking at a website the other day called Carnism Debunked, and they have like all the, 100, 200 questions that vegans are usually asked about veganism, like from the most normal ones to the craziest questions. And they've really put in some research to find answers to it. And the best thing we can do is educate ourselves to be able to provide better answers to those questions. And we're going to put a lot of references to some resources at the bottom of this episode. But for example, one thing that I always recommend to people if they want to go vegan is try Challenge 22. Challenge 22 is a great website. It's all free. They send you recipes, they give you motivation, they daily motivate you to go vegan for 22 days. And there's a great conversion rate for that. I don't want to say conversion because that sounds religious, but for people to remain vegan and enjoy a vegan lifestyle after that. And also veganuary.com as well. They have a really good kind of initial step into a vegan lifestyle if people are interested in doing it. So I always try and orientate people in this direction, not giving them the information from me, but to more credible sources. And I think that's the only thing we can really do.
Yeah, it's a great way to get you to jumpstart yourself into this whole practice. But how does your breakfast look? I don't know why I just wanted to ask that question.
Should I go into this subject? Yeah. I have quite an amazing breakfast, according to me. And
all right, we'll do a separate episode of that.
Jacob's breakfast. No, I always, it depends if I'm working or not. In case I'm off, I always have 2 rye breads with my own vegan spread that I do myself. And then I have a smoothie. And if I'm working, I do a smoothie bowl, and then I have really, really whole grain stuff. And do you want to know the contents, like what I mix in there?
Can you tell us more about your vegan spread and how you make it?
Sure, yeah. So I do, I think it's 150 grams of sun-dried tomatoes, and then it's piquillo, is that what it's called? Like pickled capsicum, which I use about 100 grams of-ish. And then I put pumpkin seeds, chia seeds, flax seeds, and hemp seeds, and black olives. Mix it down with olive oil. And then I just put it in the NutriBullet until it ends up being a nice, thick kind of spread. Put it in a jar. Lasts for like 2 weeks.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we're going to be sharing the recipe to Jacob's spread as well down below because that sounds awesome and I want to make it myself.
Yeah. Even I have a simple one. You just blend sun-dried tomatoes as well with walnuts. So 200 grams of sun-dried tomatoes, 200 grams of walnuts, a bit of salva leaves, and as well, super easy spread. And like we mentioned about omega-3 in our B12 episode, B12 Business, you can also listen to that walnuts is the 3rd highest source of omega-3 after salmon and mackerel. So good alternative. So that's so you have an all-rounded program for your breakfast. We'll ask maybe about lunch and dinner on another episode because otherwise we'll probably be here until dusk and dawn.
Yeah, for some reason people always seem very concerned about what vegans eat for breakfast. I don't know, that seems to be the meal that people struggle with, because obviously we don't eat eggs, we don't eat bacon, we don't eat cheese. And there are so many alternatives that you can find on the websites that we've given to you for the recipes. I like to do oats, whether it be overnight oats or the same day. You literally just put oats, put some plant-based milk, then you can put whatever you want, chia seeds, flax seeds, you can put frozen fruit, berries, bananas, peanut butter. Literally, it's entirely up to you what you enjoy eating. Like, it's the easiest thing to do, and it's so filling, it'll keep you going throughout the day, at least until lunchtime.
So Jacob, what if there is one major difference that you feel since you became vegan? What was that?
Oh, the major part that I feel is it's mainly my health, how good I feel, how much lighter I feel. And as soon as I eat, I go back to the part where I had to sit down on the sofa and rest for a bit. Like, I feel like I can go and run like 10K straight after I've been eating. Like, I'm always light and I'm always energetic and I always have power to go on, you know. I never have to digest something for a long period of time, which I just love.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I can agree with you on that. For me, what the biggest difference I feel is the recovery time. For example, if I sleep 4 or 5 hours, I feel like I recover a lot quicker. And I read into that being mainly because if you eat a vegan diet, your digestion is a lot quicker and a lot easier. You're not digesting heavy, fatty meat and all that kind of stuff. So your body can recover during sleep and it's not busy using that energy digesting.
That's true. And do you feel like you eat more as well?
I do eat more, but I have a feeling that I don't eat enough. I should eat more, like I should have more snacks in between my meals. And in case I'm off, I end up eating like a late breakfast and then a massive dinner. But there's nothing there in between, which is it's not very good for the routine though.
It's not like our life follow any form of routine anyway, so.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to be healthy, it always takes planning, and planning is always something that we're not very good at, to be honest. But that's an individual opinion as well.
So Jacob, final, anything that you'd like to share? Any people once again that you felt has contributed to your transition that you'd like to mention, or anything that you've seen in particularly that you think our listeners should take a look at?
To start off with that, like, there's one documentary that I found had the most facts and helped me convert over to veganism the most, and that's Forks Over Knives, and that's on Netflix. And then there's one guy on Instagram. I know there's multiple guys or girls, women and elderly maybe, who does a great job spreading the vegan message. But there's one guy that I've been following for longest, and that's Vegainstrength.
Okay.
He's a German influencer. And
Vegainstrength.
Exactly. Yeah, he does a few memes, but he has a very informative posts, and you really learn stuff when you look at what he's posting.
Just like the plant code.
Exactly, just like the plant code.
All right, so it's been awesome having Jacob on here with us today, and I think the most important thing is to remember why you actually are trying to become vegan, or why you want to become vegan. And as long as you remember why you're doing it, so if you're doing it for your health, you're doing it for the animals, you're doing it for the environment, just keep that in mind and you'll find it so much easier. And in our next episode, which we'll actually be recording live at the Vegan Springfest, which is super exciting, we will be discussing why veganism is the future.
Exactly. Jacob, do you want to round up this episode? Tell them that you have to listen to our previous episodes.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we are about to end this episode, and I would like to say that you have to go and check the plant code out. The previous episode has been amazing.
Eric was holding a banana to his head when he said that. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm Max.
I'm Eric.
And I'm Jacob.
And you guys are listening to
the Plant-Based Podcast. It is plant-based, but it's a plant code podcast. Max got a bit mad there. Mad Max gets mad. Over and out. Love y'all.